What an honor it is to just be in the room with you tonight. We're so excited for all that God has in store.
We're so thankful for you. I was telling Debbie as we were sitting here, I said, without this group of people, James River would look totally different, and the impact of James River would be totally different. And so we just want to begin tonight by saying thank you for your investment in the kingdom through James River.
Welcome to the Bad Fruit Podcast. I am your favorite sidekick host, Judah, joined with your favorite main host, Jonathan. Today we want to tell a tale of class division and financial favoritism, a world where pastors apologize to the rich for not giving them more attention. But don't worry, that changes tonight. We want to honor just the rich among us, give them the highest praise, and let them know that as wealthy people, they are the most important influencers to the church. They do what even Jesus could not do. They succeed in spreading the gospel. Was Jesus wrong when he said that it was through his name he would build the church? That's right. Jesus said, "Upon my name, the church will be built." But Lee Domain says the church will be built by rich people's large donations. But Lee Domain, his unofficial title, pastor of the richest among us, officially titled legacy pastor at Church of the Highlands, is going to tell a different tale, a tale of the rich are the ones who are responsible for the spreading of the gospel. So sit back, drink some coffee, and if you're not a high roller Vegas tither, you will not get the secret emails that are not intended for the less fortunate, unless your host Jonathan has a copy, and he does. So today we get an insider's peek into lifestyles of the rich and generous.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction, Judah. I like that. You need to write all the intros from now on. Those are so good. Well, thank you for listening to the Bad Fruit Podcast today. And I also want to just kind of give a little shout out and thank you to all of our listeners who gave us a week off last week. It was kind of a crazy couple weeks. I know you were doing stuff and I was out of town, and so we were at a memorial service, and anyways, it was just kind of a little bit of a crazy time. We just didn't quite get into the studio, studio.
Yeah,
this wonderful studio.
It is.
But yeah, we didn't really get to record last week, and so I want to thank everybody for all the likes and kind responses to us saying that we're taking a week off. But we are back, and we're gonna do something kind of crazy tonight. We are going to talk about some stuff that people probably don't want you to know about. So
secret emails.
What?
Secret dinners.
Yeah, secret
meetings that happen.
It was like an open secret is really what it is, because there's rumors of it. Some people kind of know what's going on, but I don't think the general population, the general congregant knows exactly what's going on. They just kind of know that maybe something is going on.
Yes, and as we talked a little bit about in the Friends episode, that's kind of, we're going to be revisiting a few of those friends that kind of jump-started this at our local church, but it's something that is spreading throughout churches, and small churches are even starting to do this. But definitely most of the mega churches that you may hear of, for example, Chris Hodges, the Church of the Highlands, this is the origin of this group, this secret, out in the open secret group. But also Elevate Church does it, or Elevation Church. They have this group. North Point Life Church with Craig Rochelle, they have this group as well.
Yeah.
As well as Tim Timberlake's church, hundreds and hundreds of churches. If there's a church that you have listened to that's a mega church or has visited, that their visitors have come to our local mega church here in town, they're probably doing it. So
Sure.
it's not hard to find. You can Google. It all goes back to Chris Hodges and a guy that we left out because we didn't know about this video. This is an invite only kind of video that was sent to us. So we do have the video. It is something we can talk about. There's 2, I think, videos that we do have on this, and I'm about to name it. So hold your breath. Count down back from 3.
Wait,
hold your breath. Don't breathe in.
Oh, yeah.
Just hold it.
Okay.
No. But no, it's called the Legacy Group.
Well,
so when you
when
you hear Legacy Group, what's your first thought? Like,
sure.
I think of like, oh, there's a Legacy Group. This is for like 55 and up people, right?
Sure. I mean, that's definitely one way to think about it. I mean, we could also just think about each one of us wants to leave a legacy with our family and our friends.
Okay, yeah,
and
it could
our
be
community.
a family
and
group.
So when I think of legacy, if you say that, we want a team of people for the legacy of this church, I would think of like, okay, setting this church up for the future, for future generations, building up the church.
Okay, so maybe a
discipleship,
elders,
discipleship,
or the elderly, something like that, right?
Building up.
But you wouldn't keep that a secret, though, if that was what it was.
No, I mean, and a lot of churches do have discipleship and things to build up the future, some sort of type of confirmation or something, or something that like builds up the youth to kind of get them ready for the future, So yeah, there are churches that do those things, and they're not secret, but that's not what we're talking about tonight.
Right. What if I told you? I know.
I have no idea. What are we talking about?
What if I told you the Legacy Group was a semi-secret, semi-private group for those that tithe and give above?
Yeah.
And as we listen to these videos, it's very obvious. These are the rich among the church.
Sure.
Are getting some special treatment.
Right. So let's pause this. I know we're kind of teasing out a few things, and let's kind of set sort of the stage here. I think is important. And like Judah was saying, in the Friends episode, we talked about Chris Hodges, and so we kind of want to introduce Chris again. So Chris is the pastor of Church of the Highlands, which is in Georgia, I believe. Chris Hodges is responsible for a lot of things that a lot of mega churches do today. He's kind of the one behind, I believe they call it Growth Track. James River calls it Grow Track. It doesn't matter what you call it. He's kind of the architect of that particular program.
Yep, Chris and Dino Rizzo. Yep,
yeah, okay, yeah, Dino Rizzo.
Grow Track.
Yeah.
They are the architects of Ark Church.
Association of Related Churches.
Yes,
not
organizations.
R, as in our church, but
Ark Church Organization.
Yeah,
yes,
ARC. Yep.
And they also are some of the leading liturgy and no elders, no.
Right. Yeah.
Just kind of
so those types
service.
of things.
Yes.
And with Growth Track, one of the other things that they've kind of introduced and sort of kind of promote is the idea of different dream teams. So you kind of have your parking lot dream team, your usher dream team, your serving dream teams, all these different dream teams.
Worship dream team.
And so the Growth Track will, at Church of the Highlands, Growth Track will then kind of lead you into the dream team that you should be serving on. And so it's a very odd, streamlined service.
Well, they do these kind of little personality, spiritual tests, spiritual growth tests kind of thing. And within that, it kind of, will kind of start kind of streamlining you into.
So on the Church of the Highlands website, it does. It's all about kind of these different steps. So the first step is Growth Track, then it's finding your dream team, and then it's serving on it and, growing and stuff.
Correct.
So here's the thing. If Chris Hodges was like, this would be a great system for my church, I think the kind of community I have, I think doing something like this, whatever, that would be fine. You know what I mean? If that's really what you wanted to do. But what Chris Hodges has done is he has basically franchised this out to all of the churches. And all the churches now, all the big mega churches, do something that is similar to Growth Track, and they may call it something different even. And Dream Team doesn't have to be called Dream Team either.
No.
But that's what they call it. And so James River has adopted this franchise model. They call it Grow Track, and it does lead to different Dream Teams.
Correct. They have modeled it almost to a T, as most churches do. So from what I understand is you buy and pay for the curriculum, and then
which is why I say franchise. You're paying
no, it
for
is. Yeah, you are paying for it. This is not like, hey, we developed something and we just want to generously give it to you. But with that, it's this idea of like you buy this curriculum and you can individualize it as much as you want. You can tweak it. You do whatever you want with it. Most churches just keep it the same. If you go to most of these websites of the church, of any church you can think of, they keep it pretty general. They're not going to spend a lot of extra time changing it when you don't have to.
Right.
You paid for it, use it as it is, and that's what they do.
Sure.
They put their church logo on the cover, that kind of thing. So through Grow Track, you get put on or recommended for teams, different teams.
Right.
So one of these teams that we're going to be talking tonight is the legacy team. Now, not every church, there are, like I said, there's hundreds of churches you can find online that have legacy groups. But some of them, you cannot get to that link. So it'll say, here at this church, we have a legacy group. But that link is, you can only get to that link through an invite, where other links you can get to that page. So in other words, some churches are very open about it.
Right.
And some churches are not open about it. Some churches, and it's not even the ones that are open about it, it's not that they're promoting it on Sunday morning. They're not promoting it anywhere, but you can find it. It's easier to find.
So the other person we got to introduce, cast of characters for today's episode, is Lee Domain. And his organization, ministry, I don't know really what you want to call it, is called Kingdom Builders. And so Lee Domain he was a businessman. Apparently he was very successful. I'll be honest, I don't really know much about him, but I guess he was in like real estate and all these different things. But I don't know much about it like before he got into ministry type stuff. As far as I know, and I couldn't really find any information on this, he does not have any sort of theological degree or training. His experience is entirely within the business world, and apparently he was very successful with it, which is great. That's fine. I'm happy for him. So he started Kingdom Builders, which was all about getting wealthier people to invest in churches and ministries. Okay? Not necessarily a bad thing, I guess. You know, you're like, hey, I know a lot of wealthy people. I'm going to get them to invest in ministry. However, you were talking about how some churches have these dream teams made public. Church of the Highlands, with Chris Hodges' church, lists all their dream teams, including the legacy team.
Okay.
Lee Domain is the pastor of legacy at Church of the Highlands. Okay? Pastor of legacy.
That almost sounds like atmosphere pastor.
Right.
Have you ever heard of an atmosphere pastor?
Yeah, I think our local megachurch has one of those. I'm not entirely sure, but I think they do. But you're right. Like, it's just like, where is that
Legacy
in the Bible?
Pastor, atmosphere pastor.
I mean, where do you even see a distinction between pastor in the Bible? Like, we don't really even see youth pastor and pastor. We don't see anything like that. We just see pastor. Some are pastors.
Pastor of the rich people.
So Lee Domain is the pastor of legacy at Church of the Highlands. And again, if you go to Church of the Highlands church website, you will see all their dream teams. You will see him listed there. Now, do they have special, emails? Do they have special private groups, special meetings, things like that for the legacy dream team, probably. They may have those things for each one of them. But I guess kind of what I'm saying is the one who's created the architect behind this whole system is Church of the Highlands, Chris Hodges, Dino Rizzo, and Lee Domain. Lee Domain's kind of baby, it seems like, based on Kingdom Builders, is the legacy team. Like, it seems like a natural progression out of that.
Right.
And so they are not hiding it at all. They are very upfront about it.
Why are we busting our chops on this? Why is this something that's important to talk about? Why? So what if this church has, and all these other churches, has private meetings for rich people and honoring these rich people and apologizing to rich people? Why is that so important to talk about?
No, that's a really great question. And part of it comes down to, because we have been using James River as our case study. And when I kind of talked about earlier of the kind of open secret, is that while we know that Church of the Highlands is not hiding any of this stuff, some churches are being much more hush-hush about it, almost as if they're maybe embarrassed about it, or just kind of recognize that it may not look that good to have something like this really out in the public. One of the reasons that we're talking about it is just that the secret's about to be revealed. Like, we're going to peer behind the curtain here of a lot of the things that people have been kind of like, oh, I've heard about that, but I don't know much about that. What is that all about? We're talking about what that is about because people are asking about it. People are wondering about it. The other thing is this, and this is kind of a question that I think we'll kind of throw out there now, and then we'll kind of dig into it a little bit deeper here in a bit. But is this sinful? Is this contrary to the Bible? And we've looked at some passages, and we'll bring those up here in a few minutes. Real quick, I do want to kind of, so on Church of the Highlands, under giving, it says give online, then it says legacy team, and then it says manage your account, so that you can give online. And then for the legacy, it doesn't list a dollar amount. It just says that people who give beyond their tithe. So it for them, they basically say, you're not just tithing, but you're going above and beyond. Now, I would probably venture to guess that in their mind, there's probably some sort of dollar amount. They're not going to list it, but
and even I would say, even if there are people that we would consider lower income compared to what we would consider rich, even if some of those people make it to the legacy group, and you could hear it by how they talk to the crowd in these messages, it is geared towards rich people. It's saying, you guys are business owners, you guys are making a difference by the amount you're giving. And so I don't think that it's something that I don't think it's something they want to just come out and say, hey, this is really modeled around just for the rich people, but that's what it is. It's, without saying it, that's what it is.
Oh, yeah. No, for sure. So
they may have a token poor person on the...
No, and I think, like you said, I mean, if there's somebody who makes, let's just throw out maybe like $120,000, right? For some people, they might be like, wow, that's a nice income. For other people, they'd be like, that's not very, that's not a lot, right? So, if that person was giving, maybe 20% of their income, they might make it onto the legacy team. And, they might be like, hey, we realize that this guy's given a lot, or this person is. But I know personally, based on some of the numbers that have been shared with me, that a lot of the legacy members are giving tens of thousands of dollars, closer to $100,000 maybe a year. Definitely a lot more than some people make in a year they're giving. Right. So there's definitely that element of, this is for those people, But again, there might be a couple that just make it on, and
the reason why I'm saying that is because there are hundreds of churches doing this.
Sure.
And like you said, some are keeping it private, some are more open about it. As we'll read some of the emails that we have, this James River Church is keeping, at least to some degree, some hush-hush stuff.
Sure.
So with that, I didn't want to just come out and just accuse every single church of this is only for the rich. But even if it's not just for the rich, it is about, even though it is, I mean, we'll hear it.
It is about the rich.
There's no doubt in the way Lee talks, in the way John Lindell talks to Lee, and how and Debbie Lindell they're just amazed that they're even in the same room as this guy.
Yeah.
And them apologizing to their donors, to the rich. There's this kind of like apology of like, man, we're sorry we didn't do this for you guys.
Don't give it away yet, man.
Sorry,
we'll get there. Yeah.
We'll get but the idea is,
sure.
I can't say, because we don't have the list of everybody that's on at James River or at Chris's church, this and that. But this is definitely 100% geared towards those that are giving above and beyond,
right,
and leaving out those that can't give.
Right. And I would also say that there's a possibility that you might say, and I've heard a couple of these stories where, somebody did give a lot, where it was giving above and beyond and didn't get invited to this.
Sure, yeah.
Now, was there some other reason? Were they, maybe asking a lot of questions? Were they someone who was trying to get a meeting with John about something? Or, who knows kind of the politics of church stuff that's going on behind the scenes for why maybe a few people who did give a lot didn't make it to those, didn't get the invite. Maybe it got lost in the mail too, maybe you're giving it anonymously and they didn't realize it was you. So I don't want to say that just every single rich person was invited. There definitely seems to be some criteria that was created, but that's not made public. So we just don't know.
And there's been speculation, and again, we try not to jump into speculation. We've heard there was a number, we heard there was different things, and different things have circulated, but we're just going with what we know and what we've seen, what we're seeing.
And what we do know is that it is those who give above and beyond the tithe is what they list on Church of the Highlands. It's what's listed in some of these things that I've found. So it's the people who are above and beyond tithers. And so the beyond part is maybe up for interpretation. And that's, how much beyond and above the tithe. We just don't know that number. We can't say it's 10,000 more or more a year. What I want to kind of just throw out there real quick before we get into more is I feel like we're kind of like setting the stage. We've introduced a cast of characters and now we're going to talk about kind of some other things, and then we're going to start to kind of bring it more local and get to the more specifics. But this idea of a legacy dream team. So what it really is those who give above and beyond their tithe are honored with special dinners, special events, special access,
special emails. Is there even a special devotion just for the legacy
there is a
team?
special devotion. Yep.
And
really what it is they are people who are financially supporting the church. So that is their dream team. So if my dream team that I'm serving on is the parking lot, right, then that's my dream team. And I'm probably have my own private email of, all the parking lot attendants. And it's probably a lot of things of like, hey, Bob can't make it. His back is hurting. Can you cover? I don't know. I have no idea. I've never seen those emails. But I'm sure they have their own little, events too. They may get, a pizza party once a year or something like that. But the legacy dream team will get a very nice dinner, a very nice event, get one of these world-class speakers come into town to speak to them, someone like Chris Hodges or Lee Domain or, I don't know who else has been at these meetings for sure. Bill Johnson may have been at one. Any of those big-name guys, they might come in and speak to them. And those legacy members may have an opportunity to shake hands with them, take a selfie, talk with them. I don't know. But because I was never invited to one of those. But we do know that they're there, right? And they have greater access, and it's a smaller thing. And that's the other thing. I don't know the numbers. I don't know how many people are on this team.
Yeah.
Because the camera angles don't show the
Sure,
audience. So I don't know how many people are there. It does sound like at least a substantial amount of people are there. But this idea of kind of honoring your donors, your supporters, your financial backers is seen time and time again within the non-Christian world. Businesses will honor their those who are part of the board of directors or things like that. Investors. If you invest in a startup company, you're probably going to get treated special. If you are donating to and supporting a nonprofit, like a very big nonprofit, I've heard stories that this type of thing exists, and it's all this idea of honoring those who are giving you money, and I get that. If it's just a nonprofit that is helping poor kids, and you get somebody who's giving you millions of dollars a year, I understand from a sort of perspective that you'd be like, oh, let's honor these people who are giving to it. Again, it's very common in the non-religious, non-Christian world for this type of thing to happen. The question we're really getting to is, okay, but what about at the church level? We're not even talking about a nonprofit. We're not even talking about James River has a ministry that's a nonprofit that does, global missions work or something like that. We're not talking about something like that. We're talking about specifically the church itself, members of the church being honored at greater degrees than other members of the church. And is that right? Is that sinful? Is that within the realm of what's okay? And that's really what we're talking about. So,
and I think as we explore this, I think right now some people might still be on the fence on it. Some people might say, well, hey, I don't see anything wrong with that. And somebody else might go, yeah, this just infuriates me. Why would they do that? And so we want to look at this as we walk through it and just take their word for it, not our word for it, but the words that they say and how they talk to this legacy group. And like you said, I personally have been invited to different, when I was at James River, they weren't called Dream Teams, Legacy, all that stuff, but I was invited to dinners that maybe like for the children's department, because we were heavily involved in the children's area. But I will tell you, John Lindell never came to one of them. Now, I'm not saying he's never been to any of the lower level ones, but this was, 5, 6, or I don't know, maybe it's been actually 8 years ago. So
Sure.
8 to 10 years ago, he wasn't even coming to those.
He didn't walk out and say, hey, I just want to thank everyone here.
No.
We really appreciate you. We honor you. This
Right.
church would not look the same without you.
Correct, yeah.
Helping the children.
So the first thing is, and I didn't care. Like, sadly, I was he wasn't a celebrity to me. It wasn't like, oh my goodness, I got to meet John. But what we're pointing out is these smaller, less notarized dream teams. John Lindell's not showing up to these. They're not going to those. You're not getting invited to the fanciest restaurant in Springfield to have a dinner. They're, like you said, they're doing pizza parties. They're doing, Andy's and
I heard Huey Magoo's and Andy's frozen custard was served at one of the Dream Team meetings recently. It just shows
they're just so out of touch.
Like
they
chicken tenders and custard, which Andy's is good, so I'll defend that. But
Culver's is better.
Oh, them fighting words. This podcast's over right now.
Yeah.
I quit.
That's awesome. But it's that idea that like you get Huey Magoo's and Andy's, and they talk to you like, oh, look what we did for you.
Right.
In this kind of snooty voice of like, we did all this for you because you do so much for us. And meanwhile, they're like, man, and John's not there, they're not there, but Meanwhile, in a room, in a nice restaurant, they're getting a speaker that probably charges $80,000. They're getting the best meal. They're getting John Lindell access to him right there at the table, just saying, "Hey, I'm sorry that we haven't gave you guys more attention. That all changes tonight."
Right.
So it's definitely 100% something we have to look at. Is this partiality? Is you get Huey Magoo's, you get a $40 plate.
$40, probably more than that.
Yeah, or more. And plus the speaker, the speaker you get. So the question is that
is there an open
favoritism?
bar? That's what I want.
Yeah, wow.
Did John spring for that, or is that considered, is drinking a sin?
I don't think.
I'm just curious.
I don't think you're allowed to it. You have to sign a paper.
Because I know John has said that drinking wine occasionally is okay. So I do wonder about if at the legacy things.
I don't know, because you have to sign a piece of paper to become a member there. Not that they even have members anymore, but you had to sign a piece of paper promising you wouldn't drink.
Okay, and he said that years ago, so he may have reversed his stance.
I don't know. Yeah.
Anyways, not important, but it just popped in my head, and I was like, I wonder.
Hey, if you think we don't get sidetracked here, you're wrong. We always get sidetracked.
Prior to the Legacy Dream Team, and this I think is really interesting and something to kind of consider, is that, like you were talking about how when you served, there wasn't Dream Teams at the time. So that was kind of a push, right? They brought in Grow Track. They brought in Dream Teams. But there were still people serving in different capacities before that.
Right, they had teams. It was you were just on it. The teams weren't called.
So one of the
Dream
rumors, one of the things that was going around is that those who tithed a lot, those who were giving above and beyond, the wealthiest people were invited to John Lindell's home for private dinners or a nice restaurant. And I can confirm now that this did occur. Again, I don't know the dollar amount. I don't know, what that all entailed. But prior to the Legacy Dream Team, there were dinners at John's house. Certain people were invited, and they tended to be based on observations of what people have said and the names of the people. Maybe a local celebrity, maybe a local, popular, whatever. Definitely somebody who had a lot of money to give to the church. And so they were invited. And I don't know if that is necessarily a precursor to the Dream Team. I would say it probably kind of was. I don't know if that was just him maybe realizing that I don't want to lose these people. So if I give them access to me, then, and again, it sounds like they were very informal things. Just kind of like, hey, I want you guys to come over to my house and, we're going to have dinner and whatever. And
regardless, either way,
it was just so the reason I bring that up is that you were talking about previously, before Dream Teams, there were teams that you would serve on. And it does seem as though before the Legacy Dream Team, there was something where the wealthy were honored in some capacity.
Sure, yeah. So what?
Maybe it was just a dinner and a conversation.
Right, yeah. And as far back we can see, I think one of the videos we have from Lee Domain was 2022.
So it's, I think, around, you can correct me if I'm wrong, and you may not know either. That's fine. But it was in the 2019s, 20-teens when Grow Track was introduced, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, Grow Track was being forced upon us. Yeah, when we were leaving, it was right around. It was probably a year before we left. So it was 8 years ago we left, I believe. 7 to 8 years ago we left.
Like 2016.
Yeah, so somewhere in there, was when Grow Track was introduced.
So the very first Legacy Dream Team dinner was in 2022.
Okay.
So it's possible that maybe those dinners at John's house were him kind of thinking about how to make that happen. But it seems as though the launch of it was around 2022 of the Legacy Dream Team. So they finally launched it at that point. So it's, it's a couple years old at this point, because we're in 2024. And so all that to say is that it's been around for a little bit already now. And the very first time they have a dinner, he had Lee Domain come, and he said that Lee Domain had been working with them and helping them.
Correct, yeah. So if Grow Track started in 2016, we don't know when Chris Hodges introduced Legacy in his church, at Church of the Highlands. So this idea of bringing in Lee Domain at some point, and then here in 2022, they introduced Lee Domain to the group. I think John Lindell mentions something about tithers giving above and beyond, and that this was the first group they were inviting, and they give you the cards. We'll go through that. But we wanted to take all this time to set the stage so that we're being very clear that this is going on.
Yeah.
We have the videos, we have the emails, and we want to make it clear that this is going on. And is this the sin of partiality that James talks about? So we do want to read that verse.
Well, hold on. I want to back up, because you said
back
something about how you don't know when Chris Hodges introduced the Legacy Dream Team. And it really got me thinking about something that I hadn't thought about until literally just now.
Okay. This is good.
Yeah. When did Chris Hodges and Lee Domain start working together?
Well,
and here's what's really interesting. Yeah. So Lee Domain has the Kingdom Builders thing, which is kind of like him talking about kind of the same sort of idea of like wealthy people giving to the church. And it almost seems as though, and this is completely the realm of speculation possibly, but Chris Hodges is like, I like this idea of getting wealthy people to give and feel as though they're part of the thing. I can make a lot of money off of this. The church can make a lot of money. We can get a lot of money. And he brings them on. And like I said at the beginning, I don't think Lee Domain has any theological training whatsoever, and yet he has the title of pastor of Legacy.
Right.
So it seems as though possibly Chris Hodges is like, I really like this guy who seems to be able to get money out of rich people. I'm going to give him the title of pastor, and we can franchise this out to everybody.
Well, okay.
You know what I mean? Like, that's crazy to me if that is what's actually occurring.
But he does, and we'll get to that, he does talk about a little bit how it started. I don't think he gives the time. Yeah. But he talks about how Chris and him got together, and so we will get to that. But if you want to talk about franchising, Lee Domain, I kid you not, Lee Domain trademarks what he calls our second meeting with Jesus. On the video screen, it will be trademarked what he calls it. So basically he says, and again, when you talk about theology, his theology is this: we meet Jesus twice.
Okay.
When we accept Jesus, we meet Jesus.
Sure.
Then the second time we meet Jesus is when we die and we stand before Jesus at the judgment seat.
Okay.
But he calls it something, and it's titled under there, and they put a little registered trademark. So he has registered trademarked
our dying and meeting.
Our second meeting with Jesus. Okay. So now, do we meet Jesus twice in our life?
I mean, I would say that we meet him. He meets us, I think, is what I would say. Okay. He comes and he pulls us out of, all the work of salvation is Christ's work, right? It's not us. So we're not like walking up to him saying, hey, Jesus reaches out to us. So the gospel message is that Christ did the work, not us, right? And then the Christian walks a life of repentance and is constantly turning to Christ. So the Christian doesn't meet Jesus twice. The Christian should be meeting him daily.
Hopefully,
in prayer
daily.
And in the word and going to church and hearing the gospel and the law preached and taking part of the sacraments and all of that. Like, so yeah, we meet Jesus daily as a Christian walking in a life of repentance.
Right. And so he
I
but
guess
it-
day
it-
2, I
yeah, it's
violated the trademark of Chris Hodges,
Right.
or of Lee Dumont.
so I kind of remember what it is, but because we have it pulled up
Yeah.
and we're going to get there,
we'll get to
we'll
the
talk
audio
about it.
here in a second.
But it's just it goes back to what you were saying. Are they trying to profit from this? 100%.
well, they are profiting from it. It's a franchise.
They are trying. This is a business, and we can go into a lot of things. There's a lot more stuff that the church has become a business with the music and different things. But as we're just talking with this tonight, yes, this idea of schmoozing the rich in the church to grease the wallet a little bit so that credit card slides out a little bit easier is 100% what they're doing.
Yeah.
Can I read the scripture yet, or do you have it?
Are we
Yeah, we
getting
do
into the
wanna do
Bible
that.
tonight?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
Because here's the thing: me and you can, we can complain and talk about this and say it's partiality, but I really do want.
So I want to read it because I want to.
Well, you have a better reading voice anyway.
Oh no, I meant in general I want to read the verse. But yes, I can read it if you want me to.
Yeah.
But the verse that obviously these titles were not there in the original, nor were there chapters and verses, right? But in our modern English Bibles with chapters and verses, James chapter 2 verse 1 through 13 does have the heading of the sin of partiality.
Wait, so is it not trademarked yet? Could we trademark it?
Maybe.
Okay, we're gonna trademark.
Well,
this.
actually, I mean, technically, I think Crossway owns the trademark and
Oh,
copyright
man.
of the ESV Bible.
I was gonna say we could trademark this.
So the sin of partiality in James chapter 2 verses 1 through 13. My brothers, show no partiality as you hold the faith in our Lord Jesus Christ, the Lord of glory. For if a man is wearing a gold ring and fine clothing and comes into your assembly, and a poor man in shabby clothes also comes in, and if you pay attention to the one who wears the fine clothing and say, you sit here in a good place, while you say to the poor man, you stand over there, or sit down at my feet. Have you not then made a distinction among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? I want to pause right there real quick. What is another very, very common thing within a lot of the megachurches, and we know that it happens at James River too, the bullpen.
Sure. Yeah.
What's a bullpen?
It's those people that just sit there and say, "Amen, yes, pastor, so
Yes,
good,
pastor.
so good, pastor, It's
So-
so good."
The front, maybe 10 rows or so, I don't know how many rows, they tend to put people there who are going to be more enthusiastic and who look good if they happen to get caught on camera. I just want
Well,
to throw that out there.
Yeah, and the other thing too, since we're on that little sidetrack real quick, the other thing too is how many times that I've been in there, I have seen when like a senator or somebody has come to visit the church, they have them stand up and they honor them and they have them sit up front.
Yeah.
But I know so many people who have tried to sit up front that were told to move. You can't sit there. So that now we can argue all day
Sure.
if we should let
Yeah.
Josh Hawley stand up and we should say, "Hey, Josh Hawley is here tonight. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank him for his work here in the Senate."
He's our local senator, yeah.
Yeah, he's our local senator here. We can argue that or not, whether we should stand him up and honor him because he's a senator. But the fact that if you or I try to go sit there in that area, we're told to move.
Right.
Like that is not for you.
So if I
that
walk
area is
in,
not
yeah.
for you. That's for senators,
And,
gold
yeah.
rings.
Yeah. So if I walk in flip flops, just kind of my board shorts and just an old T-shirt.
Dude, our Bad Fruit
Oh, by the
podcast
way,
t-shirts.
everybody, we have Bad Fruit
Dude, we're
podcast
wearing our-
T-shirts. Yep.
Yeah, we're both.
We got the
like,
two different
nerding out with
designs.
our
Yeah.
Bad Fruit
Hats
podcast
are on the
shirts.
way. So, but
Squirrel.
but yeah, if I go in there wearing my Bad Fruit podcast shirt and want to sit up front,
You're not.
they're not going to let me. And yet here in James, he's like, in verse 4, have you not then made a distinctions among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? So I'm going to read from verse 5 and on. Listen, my beloved brothers, has not God chosen those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom, which he has promised to those who love him? But you have dishonored the poor man. Or not the rich, the ones who oppress you and the ones who drag you into court? Are they not the ones who blaspheme and dishonor the name by which you were called? So what's crazy here is he's literally talking about how the poor people, those who are going through trials in life, and I would say this isn't necessarily just financial troubles, possibly, but even just just difficult times in life, right? And God has given them faith, and he's saying this here, and then he's like, are not the rich ones the ones who are suing you, taking you to court, oppressing you? And I find that really interesting because not to get into like a class warfare thing or anything like that, but like when you have a lot of money, you don't need God as much sometimes, I feel like. Now, I'm not saying that's a general truth that's always available or always true in all times, but there is something to kind of be like, well, all my bills are taken care of. I have a good doctor. I have all these different things.
Well, and I'm going to interject.
Yeah.
There are a few scriptures that back up what you're saying.
Right.
Psalms 49
okay.
is something I did want to read tonight. But I'll kind
No,
of
go ahead, read it right now.
Okay, yeah, let me pull that up.
We're bouncing around here.
So pull up Psalm 49. I'm going to read
this. Yeah. Well, should I finish? Okay, we're all over the place right now.
No,
there's like a bunch of squirrels running around.
No, but no, it's going to make sense. So you look that up. Okay.
Psalm, what is it?
49.
Psalm 49. All right.
So in James, again, so we jump over, he talks about some different things. He comes back to the rich.
Yeah.
And he gives them this warning, and he says, come now, you rich, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches have rotted, and your garments are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have corroded, and their corrosion will be evidence against you and will eat your flesh. Like fire, you have laid up treasure in the last days. Behold, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, are crying out against you, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. You have lived on the earth in luxury and in self-indulgence. You have fattened your hearts in a day of slaughter. You have condemned and murdered the righteous person. He does not resist you. And
which verse was that you just read?
That was James 5, 1 through 6.
Okay.
And this really ties in with also Psalm 49.
Why should I fear in times of trouble when the iniquity of those who cheat me surround me, those who trust in their wealth and boast of the abundance of their riches? Truly no man can ransom another or give to God the price of his life. For the ransom of their life is costly and can never suffice, that he should live on forever and never see the pit. And that's Psalm 49, verses 5 through 10.
Yes.
Or 9, 5 through
Perfect. And that's what I
9.
want to highlight. But what you were saying...
Right, yeah.
And here's the thing. The Bible is not saying if you're rich, you automatically oppress the poor. No. It's not saying if you're rich, it's going to be harder for you to get to heaven in the aspect of if you're a Christian. It's not saying that judgment's coming your way if you're rich. But like you were saying, when you do have wealth, there is this aspect where maybe you get, with poor people needs to go to the doctor and they're praying, Lord, heal me, this, that, the other, or provide. We're trusting in the Lord for his provision daily when we don't have wealth, when we don't have perfect health, all those things. But when we have perfect health, I mean, think of in your younger days, did you ever once think, it was a bad idea to jump off the roof. Okay.
I definitely pray for my health the closer I get to 40.
Right. Yeah. And me getting closer to 50.
Yeah.
It's that idea. Like we start feeling it more and more.
So Jesus says in Matthew 19:24, he says, "And again I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God." Again, to the point that we're making here, it is not impossible. We're not saying that if you're wealthy, you should be ashamed of it. And honestly, I would say that God has probably blessed you with, in the various ways. God blesses us all in different ways. And so there's nothing to be like, oh my gosh, like you're right, I'm wealthy. It's so difficult, whatever. The point being is that those who are wealthy can put their trust in wealth. They can put, and I mean, I guess this is kind of a sidetrack. It's not really the point that I was really getting to. But, Jesus talks about storing up riches in heaven, and that the things of earth will, pass away, and that it's moth and rust and all this stuff. And so, yes, there is this idea that if your trust is in your wealth, then it does. Like Jesus says, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to get into heaven.
Right. And I think to your point, and also just that idea of this showing partiality to the rich, it's actually detrimental to the rich as well. There's two sides of this that's not healthy. Is one, when you're telling the rich person, hey, it's okay, your giving is enough. If you can't make it on Sunday because you're working, which we're going to see Lee say, it's just this idea that like you're telling the rich to keep putting their trust in their wealth. What you're doing with your wealth is excelling you higher than anybody else. You're going to get secret emails. You're going to get secret meetings. You're going to get special dinners because of your wealth. And you're giving this false sense of security to these rich people as these pastors tell these rich people or wealthy people or seemingly wealthy people that what you're doing is better. You're in a better spot. You're excelling. You're doing what Jesus couldn't do. You're excelling the gospel far faster than just using the word of God. Your money is where it's at. And it's sad because if a wealthy person that needs to just repent and come to Jesus and call on the name of the Lord, who is a generous person, they may fall into that. Well, I mean, Pastor John meets with me. He doesn't meet with anybody, the other people other than just our little group. I'm in with our pastor. I'm in with this. There was no message of conviction of sin to the rich in that message. Mm-hmm. And it's this idea that you can actually, it can be a false sense of security you're giving.
It's almost like you're buying your way into.
Yeah. Like it's like, hey man, I've bought my ticket through giving. I mean, all these people, I was told all these people came to Jesus because of what I gave. And that's using that. That's not respecting, that's not honoring the rich person if you're not presenting the gospel to them, if you're not preaching to them the dangers that that the Bible has of the rich people. And Paul, even in these verses we read, Paul warns the rich. James warns the rich.
Right.
And it's not that just because they're rich it's bad. It's like you're saying, you can fall into a trap of trusting in your wealth. We can fall into a trap of trusting in our health. We can fall into a trap of trusting in earthly things.
Right.
And they're confirming these meetings, they're confirming this trust in their wealth by letting them off the hook on other things.
Well, and going back to Jesus, he's talking about the woman who gives everything, right? She only gave 2 cents, essentially, but it was all she had. And so she gave more. And so, when we think about the kingdom of God, it's not about dollar amounts. It's about the heart and the generosity. So, somebody who is being very generous to others with their time and resources. It may not be money. You may have a lot of time on your hands, and so you help people. You may have a talent, and you use that to bless others with that talent. You can, fix their car or do something like that. And so you're serving and honoring those people, your church that you attend, with those things. And so it isn't just about the money. It's also about all the different ways. And honestly, I'm sorry, but if you are making $1 million and you're giving, 10%, like, that's great. That's awesome. That's a really large dollar amount. But the person who's making 40,000 and giving 10% or 15% is giving the same percentage. Their heart of generosity is the same. So why are they not honored for their generosity? You know what I mean?
Right.
So I guess what I'm saying is, if you make $1 million a year and you give 10%, you might get honored. But if you make 40,000 a year and you give 15%, you might not, because your dollar amount is less. You know
exactly.
what
I mean?
Yeah.
And that's where
I want to finish this James passage, the sin of partiality, before we get too far into anything else. We're all over the place tonight. I appreciate you guys sticking with us. So this is James chapter 2 again, picking up in verse 8. If you really fulfill the royal law according to the scriptures, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. You are doing well. But if you show partiality, you are committing sin and are convicted by the law as transgressors. For whoever keeps the whole law but fails in one point has become guilty of all of it. For he who said, "Do not commit adultery," also said, "Do not murder." And if you do not commit adultery but do murder, you have transgressed the law. So speak and so act as those who are to be judged under the law of liberty. For judgment is without mercy to one who has shown no mercy. Mercy triumphs over judgment. There's a lot packed into this. It's right after that is when he gets into the faith and works and all of those things, right? Because that's in 14 is when that whole starts. So this is his build up to that. But what James is laying out here is saying, you say, okay, well, I haven't murdered anyone, but I've committed adultery. Well, you're guilty of the whole law. And within this kind of list of different things that he's talking about, he also points out, as he did, in the verses that we read a little while ago, and now kind of bringing that full circle, is the sin of partiality. So I'm assuming whoever was reading this, or his intended audience that he's, thinking about as he's writing this, there was probably a group of people there who were showing honor to the wealthy and maybe neglecting the poor. James talks about true religion is taking care of widows and orphans. Like that, James is all about this taking care of people, and it's James has a heart for those who are not the wealthy, who are don't have it all together. You can kind of see that in a lot of what he's saying here. And so in this passage, when he's talking about the sin of partiality, what he's saying is you're guilty of the whole law now, because you've broken the law of you shall love your neighbor as yourself. And that's really, I guess, the kind of the crux here, is he is equating that love your neighbor as yourself with partiality, with showing favoritism towards the wealthy, neglecting the poor, because you're saying, well, that person over there is worth more than that person over there.
Correct. Yeah. And I think even in this verse, and there's so many verses about it, like he says in James 2, have you not then made the distinction among yourselves and become judges with evil thoughts? Listen, my beloved brothers, has not God chosen those who are poor in the world to be rich in faith and heirs of the kingdom? And we know the Bible says there's no Jew nor Greek, male nor female, slave nor free. There's other verses about the rich and poor being equal. And if you think about it, like we talked about, the business world honors the rich.
Right.
The business world, in a business world, if somebody walks up to your business and says, "Can I please have a free whatever your business provides?" Well, you can't give 1,000 free whatever your business provides. If you provide, cars, let's say you're a car dealer. Okay. You can't give every car in your lot away.
Right.
Okay. That would be a really bad business decision. Okay. So if you think about it, we all walk into church. The second we're in church, it doesn't matter what you do for work. It doesn't matter what I do for work. We're all, what is uniting us is Christ.
Right.
We're there united in Christ.
We're all a bunch of sinners in need of a Savior.
My pastor's not better than me.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, as Paul lays out other verses, we do have different parts of the body in the church, but not one is, we're not looking at like, oh, I can't believe they made Billy an elder. He works at McDonald's.
Sure, yeah, exactly.
I can't believe they let that guy do that. He's just a car salesman. I can't believe they let that guy do that. And I remember I was told at a small church when I first moved out here, there was this little startup church we went to, and I was told that the pastor was like, "Man, it'd be really cool if you made more money, and one day, and if you make a little bit more money, I'll make you an elder." So again, it was that, and I just kind of looked at him like, "What are you talking about?" And
so even small churches can get caught up in all this.
But it's just that idea that we think that your success in the world financially is somehow translated into our spiritual lives. And the Bible spends so much time telling us it doesn't.
Right. No, it doesn't matter your skin color.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter your history, the things that you've done before Christ saves you. It doesn't matter what your career is, how much money is in your bank account. None of that matters when we stand before God.
Think about it. You could have a 45-year-old male that works at McDonald's his whole life discipling a 42-year-old super rich guy that's got all the money in the world, okay, but is needing spiritual advice, is needing counseling and something. And this 45-year-old could be a more mature Christian than the rich 42-year-old. But you wouldn't see that in the business world, right? In the business world, okay, this 45-year-old guy works at McDonald's and he's trying to tell us, teach us something here in our boardroom. You'd be like, no, that's crazy. We're not letting that guy teach all these rich people in the boardroom anything. So that's the difference of the gospel. That's what the distinction. That's why James is so mad that these rich people are walking in and they're like, hey, dude, nice ring. That's a gold ring. Nice suit. Hey, come sit over here. Hey, guys, we got rich people in our church. God didn't care if rich people were in his church.
No. Well, and again, so there is nothing wrong with the car dealer telling somebody who comes in and says, hey, can I have a free car? There's nothing wrong with them saying no and saying go away.
Correct.
Like,
yeah.
It's a business.
Right.
And God calls us to vocations in life. Not all are called to be a pastor. Not all are called to ministry. People are called to be to work in their vocation and to love others, to serve others, to be generous and stuff. And so the person is working at McDonald's, working at a car dealership, working becomes the CEO of a company. Their vocation, they need to walk out in that role of their vocation the best that they can. They need to have they should have Christian morals, right, in their business practices. If you're professing to be a Christian, you probably shouldn't be doing dishonest things in your business, But you also don't have to give away things for free if you don't want to. It's okay to have different things. The difference that I've noticed here within the modern American megachurch is that it's business. It's all business now. They want the business model. They want the pastor to be the CEO. They don't want elders. They want a board of directors. They want to honor the donors, those who are investing. They talk about investing, right? as though it's like the stock market or a business or something. It's like, no, it's the church. It's not a business. The pastor is not called to be the CEO of the church. The pastor is called to preach the word and administer the sacraments. That's what the pastor's role is, right? To preach the law and the gospel, to be there, to pastor, to shepherd people in theological and spiritual issues. And the CEO, their role, their vocation is to run a business. There's no overlap there. Oh, well, our church has, hundreds of thousands of people, and that business has hundreds of thousands of people. So, it's similar, right? I'm like the CEO of no, those aren't your employees. Those are your congregants. Those are people that God has placed under the pastor to be shepherd. The CEO, yeah, those are his employees, and he should treat them well and pay them fair wages. But he's not shepherding them in spiritual issues. That's the pastor's role. That's what God ordained the pastor to do. What we keep seeing time and time again, and that's why I used the word franchise earlier, is literally it's like they're franchising out all this stuff. We know for a fact that James River got a lot of the secondhand stuff from like Hillsong and Bethel and all this stuff, like some of their signs and like the Welcome Home thing was like a franchised out thing. And it's like, it's almost as though each individual megachurch is slowly becoming a mirror of another one in a different area, and they're almost like becoming their own brand. Like James River may be part of the Assemblies of God, and some other church might be Southern Baptist, and some other church might be non-denominational or loosely tied to something, but they're all slowly becoming identical to each other. They're all using Grow Track. They're all part of Arc Church. They're all using Dream Teams. And yeah, sure, maybe they name it something different, but they franchise it out. I mean, even think about like some of the satellite campuses for all these different churches. They usually get like some old warehouse and make it look really cool, right? And it's like, oh, this is the satellite campus or whatever. And then their main campus is like huge and really, fancy and stuff. I mean, we've even joked about this, about how Bill Johnson and John Lindell are starting to look the same, right? Like, there's a picture of them both in like a blue suit, and it's like, oh my gosh, these could be brothers, like
Sure, yeah,
balding and whatever.
I think John stopped coloring his hair too after he met with.
And again,
Bill
it's
Johnson.
It's that idea of like sort of like franchising out, trying to everybody look and act the same. And again, this is the church. It's not a business. It's the church.
Right.
I want to kind of talk a little bit about the James River Dream Team now, Legacy Dream Team.
Sure, yeah.
I have talked with a few people who were part of it, invited to it, and this is where I think if there was a bombshell moment of this episode, it might be this right here. Because as I've been talking with a few people, I have come to find out that the people who are part of the Legacy Dream Team receive emails from this Legacy team. They receive devotionals, so a special devotional that's just for them. It's geared towards maybe kind of like a business sort of minded people. Lee Domain wrote one of them that I read. They're invited to special dinners, and so I want to kind of just read a few things here that I think are very interesting. So one thing, this is maybe like the bombshell moment here, right? And maybe everybody knows about this already, but the Legacy Lane reports.
Okay, so it's called Legacy Lane Reports.
Legacy Lane reports.
That's not very original.
No, they send these out to people who are part of the Legacy team, and in the email there are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's five different individual reports within this email. Okay. Each one of them, it links to a PDF that goes over a certain thing.
And this is sent to everybody in James River?
No.
Okay,
No. So this is sent to those who are part of the legacy team. It's
so
the special legacy email address, and it's called the Legacy Lane Report. The last one,
Okay.
or the most recent one I have, is from May of 2024.
Okay.
And so it's signed by the pastor. I didn't notice this till just now. This one is signed by David Lindell,
Okay.
legacy pastor.
Oh, so
So
he's a
David
legacy-
David Lindell is the
is a
legacy pastor.
All right.
Which I don't know if that's
Interesting.
listed on the website. I
thought
don't
he was
think
just
it
an
was.
executive. So now he's an
He's
executive.
now the legacy
/ legacy / something else probably.
So in this email, it says thank you for all you do to build and strengthen the church. Over the past several months, we've watched God work powerfully in the lives of people. So far this year, so this is May, we have seen 2,444 people make decisions for Christ, 596 people baptized in water. I'm really glad that they're
using water now. I think it used to be
really glad that
Kool-Aid.
they distinguished what the baptism was in. We stopped using orange soda.
Well,
it was
no,
just
but you got to remember too. They
Yeah.
do baptisms in the Holy Spirit too.
I
so you
get
got a
that.
distinct.
I do.
like,
I know. But I just
baptized in water. But
I
yeah,
know. It was just kind of
is-
a funny
It
wording.
is
I
funny,
get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. and then it says, and your generosity is connected to each and every one whose life has been changed. So this email is sent only to those who are part of this legacy team. These are the people who tithe above and beyond. They're mostly the wealthier people of James River. They get a special email with special reports, the Legacy Lane reports, and it says, we've had all these salvations, we've had all these baptisms, and then it says, and your generosity is connected to each and every one whose life has been changed. So all these rich people, all the people who are part of the legacy, and I'm not judging you for being part of it. Like when I say all these rich people, I'm not judging you guys. I'm saying they are buttering you up.
Exactly. Yeah, and it goes back to, like we said, we're not in any way in this episode trying to say rich people are bad. Like
No.
that is bad if you're a wealthy person that got invited to be on this dream team. We're not judging you. We're just talking about what they're doing to deceive and leave out the poor people, and to deceive and butter up and give a false sense of comfort to rich people.
Sure. And again, it's this idea that that it says in this email of your generosity is connected to each and every one of these. So 2,444 people got saved at James River, and because of the legacy team, you get a special report that lets you know that you contributed to this.
So
The parking lot attendant, the person who was watching the kids while that couple goes into the service and, gives their life to Christ,
hopefully here's the gospel.
the person who's watching their children isn't blessed, isn't honored, isn't told that their contribution contributed to it. No, it's the wealthier people, the legacy people. Your generosity is connected to each and every one of these.
So,
And
how much does it cost to save somebody? What is the sticker price to save somebody? I mean, if generosity
I
is
don't
what
know.
brings people to Christ, is there a financial number like?
I mean, I guess in
For just
the sake of
cents a day, you can bring salvation to a child in our
at
neighborhood.
James River, it's probably just the cost of keeping their lights on. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So
There's more though, right?
but wait, there's more. So, and on behalf of Pastor John and Debbie and James River Legacy leadership team, we are excited to share our May 2024 Legacy Lane reports. These reports highlight the areas where your generosity is currently making an impact, as well as where our resources can make a difference going forward. So, what's really interesting here, I asked a general question to some people, and as far as I know, the average person who just attends James River, who tithes regularly, does not get access to some of the information that's in these reports. So there is some information that is given to the general population of the church, They do their like Vision Sundays. They do their, different dream things, whatever, and they'll talk about projects. Occasionally before or after a service or whatever, they might kind of talk a little bit about some of the things that they're doing. But these reports go into detail about how the wealthier legacy members' money is being utilized.
So do they want these legacy members to then go and pass this information on to those around them?
No. Nope, not at all. So I'm literally reading as the email goes down, because right after it says that, it says this. This is the bombshell moment. We would ask you, please remember that the reports are for legacy team members only. And then in parentheses it says, as they contain sensitive information. I've read over the 5 reports so I actually obtained several reports from different months and different times. But the most recent one, which we're actually going to go through a few things in it, I don't know what they would call sensitive information.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
it's not talking about like staffing issues. It's not talking about like HR things.
Sure.
It actually says, hey, we did this really cool thing. We're going to buy a bus, or we're going to buy a truck for this thing. We want to expand into this area, all these different things. It talks about how they want to build a $25 million campus in St. Louis. So, I mean, I guess that's maybe sensitive information because it's not known to the general church yet. So if you don't know that, James River's thinking about building a $25 million church in St. Louis, or at least they're thinking about it.
Isn't the East Campus still on the table in this?
Another $25 million
So
building.
Why? I'm trying to think. There's some people say this isn't showing partiality. Why are some people in the church allowed to know the vision of the church, the desire to open up campuses in St. Louis? The East Campus is still on the table, that they're buying a vehicle, these kind of things. Is this
like, why is this hidden information?
Why do you have to hide this? Why do you have to tell people like, hey, we don't want anyone to know about this group, we don't want anyone to know what we're trying to do in the future? And is that showing partiality? Is that saying, hey, if you're a giver, you get the insider scoop on these different events? Or is it the kind of to look at it the other way? Or is this information they don't care if it gets out, but they're making the rich people, or in their mind, the rich people feel like it keeps them coming back, like, hey, I'm going to keep getting this secret information because I'm giving, and because I'm doing that, I feel special. Again, is it to schmooze the wealthy, and they don't care if this information gets out, or is this truly sensitive information? I mean,
I've read
wanting
through
to
it.
do the St. Louis campus.
Yeah, I mean, I've read through it, and I would say that, again, kind of going back to the difference between a church and a business, right? I don't know why a church would think any of this is sensitive or proprietary information, right? Again, we're not talking about HR staffing issues or sensitive, confidential.
Right, yeah.
None of that is in here. Now, I think some of this is just things that they don't really want the general community to know about.
Sure, that could be it too. Yeah.
Because think about this. Okay, here's just one thing in one of the reports. So in one of the reports, it says James River Television. In addition to our in-person and online services, James River Television gives us the incredible opportunity to air our weekly services on 4 different local television stations for a total of 6 different airtimes each week. These services average 68,882 weekly viewers, reaching thousands of households with the message of the gospel. This program also allows us to pastor the community. It says that. Annual cost $67,000.
You can't even pastor your church of 10,000, and now you're
Yeah.
pastoring the community.
Right. No, you can't. If you go to James River, you can't even meet with John, let alone talk to an elder or a pastor or anything. And then now they want to reach another almost 70,000 people and pastor the whole community. But my point though here is that they list how much this program costs, which is $67,000 a year. Is that something that they don't really want people to know about? Like, is that why that's sensitive information? The cost that they are doing for just this one program. In other words, if you start to go through, which I haven't done, at some point I'm going to go do that. If you start to go through of how much they're spending a lot of money. So all of a sudden this church that's, we just do so much for the community. We do all these things. Well, $67,000 just to read, and maybe you're saying, okay, well, James River Television is a good thing. It reaches more people. Okay, fine, whatever. But my point is that who gets to say that this is a good thing or not? And is that something that they don't want to do to get out there?
Well, and I think too, if you think about this,
and also real quick, like think about this, right? You're tithing. You make $100,000. You're tithing 10%. You're tithing $10,000, right?
Sure.
And you're like, man, I'm making pretty good money. I'm giving to the church. You're not even funding James River Television with that.
Right. Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
In other words, your money is just lost in a giant bucket
Sure.
of how much they're actually spending on stuff.
Sure.
We'll say though that they do, and maybe this is the sensitive information or whatever, but they do list how much has been received year to date and how much is needed for each. So each of these 5 reports has a a specific vision, and it has a vision gap at the end.
So in other words, if I was on the legacy team, I could look at how much was needed for the St. Louis.
Well, it's not that specific. It's just like the entire. So like,
but I can give to any of those lanes. Basically, I
think so. I think
put
that's
this towards television.
I think
or
you could do
whatever
something
lane
along
is.
that.
Gotcha.
So like the one that I'm looking at right now, there's a giant vision gap. So in May, only a small percentage had been given.
Okay.
Only about $500,000 had been given.
Only
where they were wanting $2 million.
Oh man, that's what do they call it? Vision gap.
This is the vision gap. I don't know if that's the same name on each one there.
The vision gap.
But so it's the vision gap, and basically that's just how much has been received and how much. So like this is a different one I just opened up, and they wanted to get
the files are in the computer,
right? They wanted to get 3.5 million dollars, and they're only at $1.4 million in May.
Okay.
So that's a different vision gap on a different. So I think each one of these lanes has its own sort of vision dollar amount.
Gotcha.
So again, like this one's $3.3 million, or close to $3.5 million. Another one is $1 million, whatever. And again, there's a lot of things in here. It goes over some good things. It talks about all their Saturday serves, and like obviously there's going to be expenses with those types of things. You gotta buy the T-shirts and the paints and whatever, right? And so like I'm not gonna say that like every dollar that is spent is going towards something frivolous or anything like that.
No, and actually what I wanted to bring up earlier was it made me think of the episode that you did with the Trinity Foundation.
Yeah.
And one of the things they said was churches have zero responsibility to even provide any kind of information like this, right?
Right.
They don't have to provide a budget to the government, to the IRS. They don't have to say where their giving's going, what they're doing. And just recently in the news, you remember Robert Morris? They got fired for the inappropriate stuff. Well, it's coming out now that he had like that money back guarantee with tithing and all that stuff.
Yeah, so I saw that.
It turned out they found out that like they said they gave like, I'm just going to make up a number, but they said they gave like 10 million to missions. Well, it turned out it was only 1 million. and they
okay.
were lying about it.
Yeah.
But I bring that up to say, in all this legacy stuff that they're doing, and giving you these numbers, it doesn't say where, like, why do you need $67,000 for James River TV? Is that the paid advertise, or pay for that television spot, or is that, do they pay John Lindell every time
I
he's
see what you're
on the
saying.
screen? Like,
Yeah.
does he get some, like, they have to pay for him to for his face to be on the
Sure.
TV? Like, where, just
And that
because
seems
they
kind
have
of a low number, so probably not.
right, but
yeah,
what I'm saying is just because there's a number there,
sure.
that number means nothing.
I mean, I'm sure
That-
somebody created it, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it does. I mean, it means, like, yeah, they want $25 million to build the St. Louis campus. Okay, they get the $25 million.
Yeah.
How much do you really think right now it's going to be $25 million? How old is this thing? It's probably going to be
From May of-
$36 million. Right. Yeah.
of this year, but yeah.
it's probably going to be a lot more expensive.
Well, okay, and
And
again,
then what
why
happens
does it have
is
to be a
like-
$25 million campus? Like, why
Right,
couldn't
yeah.
you rent out a different one? Why do you even need to? Why should you even expand into St. Louis? Like,
Sure,
have you
yeah.
done a? And again, and it says that they're looking into it, and so maybe it's something that they haven't officially decided yet, and they're kind of like, let's see if we can raise
Sure,
the
yeah.
money and if it's viable. But again, it's like, is there not a warehouse or a smaller, like, why does it have to be a $25 million property?
And if you're trying
Because it's the
to-
branding. Because
but-
it's the branding.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
And like you said, yeah, because if you're trying to excel the gospel, you could, because that's one of the things Lee Domain says, is that givers are the only ones that can actually excel the gospel. All the other gifts don't
Yeah.
do much, but your gift excels the gospel. So that's why I say you're doing what Jesus couldn't even do.
Yeah.
Like this is amazing, dude. Rich people can do what Jesus can't do through Lee Domain, through Legacy Group, all those things.
Yeah.
No, you're giving this false hope to wealthy people. And it's sad because I think a lot of wealthy people that are giving,
Yeah.
they would rather hear the gospel and they would rather repent of their sin, just like the poor guy needs to repent of his sin,
Yeah.
just like the male and the female. We all need to repent of our sin and come to Christ, and in Christ we're all equal, going back to that. But wouldn't it excel the gospel more if instead of getting $25 million, you got maybe $1 million and you went into a local church there that actually knows the demographic that they're working with
Mm-hmm.
and the area that they're working with, and help that church build within the community that they've already been working in
Yeah.
for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But like you said, it's the name branding.
Right.
And they're trying to expand. They're trying to do what Mark Driscoll did with multiple campuses. They're trying to
Yeah.
do what, all these people that have, I mean, dude, there's people that have 37 multi-site campuses.
Right.
And why wouldn't that be the next step for them if they're following in the Chris Hodges, Lee Domain, model?
So
You found something funny.
so the local TV one that's 67,000,
Okay.
that's part of the local outreach lane. So the title of the 5 lanes are the project lane, the college lane, local outreach lane, national missions lane, and global missions lane. So each one has a budget, kind of a vision number,
Sure.
and a
Okay.
gap. So the local one is $67,000 to be on local TV. The global one is $20,000. And it says, in addition to our in-person and online services, James River has an incredible opportunity to air our weekly services globally on God TV. With this streaming service, James River's sermons are accessed by over 300 million people around the world. So they're spending $87,000
Okay.
just to get their sermons on there.
Wow.
And they say through the $20,000 that can reach 300 million people through God TV. Through $67,000 they can reach 68,000 people locally, and he can pastor the community. So
Wow.
again, these are just kind of 2 little snippets within these reports, and I think maybe part of that is just a little bit of, it's like, they're not embarrassed of what they're doing, but I don't think they want people to know about these things.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, it's interesting because
So how about this? So in the national missions lane report, it says that, and this is true for Design for Life and for Strongerman. It's worded very similarly, but it says, each year we have the opportunity to partner with group homes and residential programs from across the United States to provide a way for men to be part of the Stronger Men's Conference who would not otherwise have had the means to attend. We are excited and expectant for all that God is doing through the lives of those who will attend the conference next year. And the Design for Life one, very, very similar. It says group homes and shelters from across the United States to provide women ability to go. For both of those, so these are separate, it is $20,000 each, and these are scholarships for people to attend these conferences. So they want to get $20,000 in scholarships for Stronger Men's and $20,000 in scholarships for Design for Life. What are the tickets now? Up to
well, okay. Do they get the discounted price? So you're telling me that they're going to make, let's say $100, $20,000, $100. That would be 200 people.
Okay,
that would be 200 scholarships. So they're telling their donors, their legacy team, that if they pay $20,000, they can bring 200 people that normally couldn't afford a ticket to their own event, to the James River event.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford a ticket, that they'll be able to buy them a ticket.
Sure.
Who gets the money for the ticket? James River. So they're basically making the legacy group pay for a ticket to be printed to give to James River so that someone can fill a seat that's would probably be empty otherwise. I mean, I've been to I've been to over, I've probably been to 6
as I was
conferences.
I was reading this,
easily 200 empty seats in those auditoriums.
And as I was reading this, and to your point, it's hilarious to me because this is James River's conferences. They run these two conferences.
They're not buying a ticket to bring them to somebody else's conference, and they're going to provide bus services and all this stuff. This is their own. They're charging and making money.
Yeah.
Off of their own event to bring someone who couldn't afford.
A lot of churches will do a like a men's retreat or a women's retreat or maybe a little conference. Like, just kind of like, hey, we're going to do like a Saturday thing at our church and invite the men. A lot of times it's completely free. Sometimes it'll have a cost and it'll be kind of maybe like, hey, we're going to be camping. If it's like, hey, guys, we're going to go camping and, this is the cost for the food and for the thing or whatever. But generally, the church is putting on the event. It's the churches. They don't have to charge for it. So if they want to reach out to people and say, oh, we want 200 people to get a special scholarship, they could literally just let those people walk in the door. Like, they could just print the ticket, hand it to them. They don't, like you said, they don't have to get the legacy team to pay for it so that they get the money. And I'm sure that part of that goes towards paying for the speakers and for the lights. And I get it. Like, they've become such a show that they have to pay so much to put on the production. But at the same time, it's theirs and they don't have to run it that way.
Well, but those weren't going to be tickets anyway.
Exactly.
See what I'm saying?
That's the other thing too. Yes.
It's that idea that like there will definitely be 400 empty seats.
Yeah.
So it's not costing them.
Let some people.
It's not costing them anymore to let 200 people in.
Yeah.
They've already paid the speaker. They've already paid the the sword swallower. They've already paid all those people. And so it's just one of the. It's just funny to point out. It's like
I wonder,
you're charging the legacy group, to pay, and they're under this guise of like, hey, we're allowing these people can make it. You're letting these people that normally couldn't afford a ticket.
So what if I'm like,
why
hey,
don't you just let them in?
What if I'm like, I want to go? Not me, like but I'm saying like, what if somebody who just can't afford it and just attends James River?
Right.
Like, do you have
Yeah.
any programs for them, or is this a separate
So
program?
and I think that might do that. So I personally believe.
Okay.
So I personally know someone who was a single mom, and she called up. I don't know. It could have been the day before, and said, "Hey, I'm a single mom that goes to the church. Can I get a free ticket?" And I don't know if she was going to take her daughter or not, but she asked for a free ticket, and they told her there was none available, and that she couldn't go. And she said, "Hey, I volunteered in the past at some of them. I'm a member of the church, and I'm on hard times." And she was on hard times.
Yeah.
And they told her no. She said, "Can I talk to somebody?" They said, "Your answer is no."
So you can attend the church, you can serve in the church, you can, be all in on the church. And if you can't afford to go, they're just going to be like, yeah, sorry.
Well, and here's the thing. You could argue, okay? Let's do the argument.
Go ahead and argue.
If she would have called a week earlier, they would have gave her a ticket.
You could make that argument,
Okay.
for sure.
But here's my question, okay? When I went to the men's conference and volunteered, okay, as a volunteer, I brought it was the year we did the American Ninja Warrior. My kids were all about American Ninja Warrior. They got to meet all the American Ninja Warriors and get pictures with them. I still have pictures with one of the guys that was called the Weatherman. They loved him. But the thing is that people, all kinds of volunteers were bringing their kids in there.
Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't the only one, but other kids.
You didn't
people
pay
were
for the
bringing
kids
their friends.
to come in?
No, just kind of snuck them in. There was enough chairs, everything.
I gotcha. Okay.
I'm going to get a bill in the mail from. My point is, there's always room for one more.
Sure.
There's always as many people. I mean, if you go on Facebook the night before and the day of, there's always people trying to sell their tickets. That's what's funny. I have a DFL ticket for $75, 50% off. I'm like, what? Like, who's gonna pay? I mean, people do, obviously, because they fill the term. But there's always room for one more.
Right. Well, okay, and again,
you don't need
going back
$75 from a single mom.
Going back to what we're talking about here, and just how I know we're on kind of a sidetrack, but
that's all we've done.
So they say that these events are world-class speakers that are going to change lives, right? These are world-changing events, and everyone needs to go. They have a price tag for it. And so you have people who are attending the church that are not able to experience this. And then you have other people who are like you sneaking people in, who get to experience these cool things or whatever. And then I guess what I'm kind of getting at is, if they truly believe that these are world-changing events and world-class speakers, then why is it such a heavy barrier to get into? Trinity Foundation said that it was like $800,000 that they made off of the men's conference several years ago. The last time those reports were made, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money they made. They're making more than that now. But these are world-class events that are changing people's lives.
Sure.
Why do you have to make $800,000 off of it?
Right.
So part of that is $40,000 or $20,000 just in scholarships for seats that you could just let somebody sit in.
Sure.
So again, it's just this weird idea. And I know we're talking about legacy and we're kind of like jumping around, but it's a little nugget that's in this legacy email that I just find just fascinating.
And I do want to reiterate too, if you're listening to this, don't share this email with anyone.
Yeah, don't share this. Actually, please share this.
Don't share it with any poor people. Keep this away from the poor people.
So just a couple other things. So they're wanting to raise $66 million for campuses. So they have the North. I guess it's not the North Campus. It's the
So that was the East Campus. Yeah, they called it the East Campus.
What is it? It's the
one that Mark Driscoll prophesied would be
yes,
a world hub for
that one, and the St. Louis one
all
are
kinds of
yeah,
stuff.
there it is, the East Campus.
East Campus.
So they really want that. They have the land and everything. They want the St. Louis one. They want to kind of do some remodel stuff on the other buildings and different things like that. So there's a lot of really interesting things within these emails, or within these reports. The ones that we've been looking at today were from the May 2024 reports, but I actually have some older ones of those. And honestly, if anybody's really interested in learning more about it or wants to look at some of these reports, I can pass that on to you as well. So, and here's the other thing.
Wait, will we just pass these on to our legacy group? Do we have a legacy group?
We don't have a legacy group. I mean, we have some sponsors, but yeah, I don't know if
Let's start a Bad Fruit legacy group, and they will only get the emails.
Sure. The November 2023 report.
Okay, sorry, I'll get serious with
No, you're fine. You're fine. Is from John and Debbie, and it says lead pastor. So maybe David hadn't been made the pastor of Legacy yet. And in this November one, it says, as you consider your year in giving, Debbie and I want to ask you to prayerfully consider making gift towards the James River Youth Building. So he's basically saying, are you thinking about giving a little extra at Christmas? Could you consider this one very specific thing?
Well, even more sinister than that is they know, because Lee Domain taught them, that business owners do have a lot of money they have to get rid of at the end of the year to write off for tax write-offs.
Stuff.
You know, a lot of times they'll buy new trucks for their car or for their business, or they'll buy, all new furniture for the business, whatever it is that would be a big tax write-off. And giving is obviously dollar for dollar a huge tax write-off. So why not? In other words, if I'm going to have to pay $50,000 in taxes, or if I just give this $50,000 to the church, I'm losing that money either way. Might as well give it to the church.
Yeah.
So that's what they're praying on. It's like, hey, you guys, I know you guys are getting ready to do your, look at year-end giving. So consider, XYZ.
And in November of last year, it also said we asked that you would please not share this. We would ask you please remember that the reports for the legacy team are for members only. So it's members only. Special. Do they get special jackets, like members only jackets? I don't know.
That would be awesome.
So
legacy.
Now it is interesting. The devotions that they get do not have that same little message on it. It doesn't say these are for you only.
Okay.
For your eyes only. It doesn't say that. But like here's one from July of this year. And it's Time for God. And it's by Lee Domain. And he quotes a little passage. And I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll share it if anybody wants to know more information about it. But he talks about leadership. So at the end of his little devotion, it says, enhance your leadership journey with these reflective prompts. Evaluate. Would you say you are giving God your leftovers or making him a priority in your schedule? Giving God kind of seems like maybe he's hinting there. Motivate. How can you better incorporate seeking God as a lifestyle rather than a specific program or particular amount of time? Activate. What steps can you take this week to trust God with your time and manage it more wisely? So these are kind of very business things. Every business I've ever worked for has kind of like, hey, can we make an action plan? Can we do this?
Right.
Can we do that? And really he's kind of ending his little devotional with here's some things you can evaluate this, you can motivate, and here's how we can activate. And it's again incorporating that sort of business
and there's no gospel
mentality
in that. There's no
not really.
There's
the
no
passage is Psalms 84:4. Blessed are those who dwell in your presence. They are singing your praises all day long. I mean, that's a nice thing. But it's really about, honestly, it's actually a little bit of law It's a little bit about making people feel kind of guilty for maybe giving God their leftovers.
Sure.
So it's not really a gospel message. It's more
Yeah.
of kind of like making you feel kind of bad. Like, hey,
Right.
you know what? You're right. I haven't really been giving God as much as I should, and I haven't been, spending as much time and all this stuff, and not really a gospel message of God forgiving us and loving us.
I feel like a lot of Arminian devotionals are that way. It's kind of like, do a little bit more today than you did yesterday.
Sure.
Just do these 3 things, these 4 things this week.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about devotionals because that's another squirrel I could just
so
run on. But
this is the legacy episode, and
part
unfortunately,
part one,
it's part 1
because we didn't get to all the fun stuff. We spent too much time. We spent too much time setting the stage,
Yes,
and the characters, and then we ran around like
Here's the
chasing
thing.
squirrels.
I think-
and then we came back
yes.
and started getting into the good stuff.
So here's we're not going to get to record it tonight because of some scheduling issues. So we're going to record it later on this week. So I want to throw this out there to anybody listening. Our email address is badfruitpodcast@gmail.com. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/badfruitpodcast. If you were on the legacy team or currently on it and would like to share your story or experience, please reach out to us on one of those platforms. If you would like to know more about these devotionals and these legacy reports, reach out to us, let us know. And so if you want to, within the next couple days, share anything that you think would be pertinent to a sequel episode, and
absolutely.
we would be very much appreciative. The next episode, we are going to get into the legacy dinners and kind of dive in more into that and hear a little bit more about Lee Domain, a little bit more of Chris Hodges. That's what I thought we were getting into tonight, and it's very fascinating stuff. We didn't get to it, but I think we did make the case that this is a thing that is not for everyone. It is definitely a hush-hush sort of open secret. People suspect it's going on, but it's not broadcast. You won't find the Legacy Dream Team listed in bold on the front page of James River. They don't really talk about it too much. These emails are for those members only. And again, I don't know why a Legacy Dream Team member should be allowed to know what the church is doing as opposed to any other tither. There should be accountability to everyone giving to the church, shouldn't there? And that's where I don't feel any bit of reservation in sharing this information, because I think if you attend James River and you did not know that there were certain people who were obtaining certain information about how your tithe is being used, I would be very frustrated about that. And so, if you're still going to James River, if you're listening to this because you're kind of curious about, what's that Bad Fruit podcast talking about James River for? Maybe this will get you to think about a few things. I think that this episode, like I said, just kind of lays down that case of...
Yeah, and going through James
Yeah.
to just really, I don't see how you can't see that distinction. How you can't
Right.
see, okay, here's the people that are excluded because they don't give enough, and here's the people that are getting the secret emails that we don't want you to share.
Yeah.
The dinners, the time with John that no one else is getting. It's evident. We've heard so many time and time again, hey, I can't get a meeting with John. I can't get a meeting with John.
Yeah.
But there's people with a certain bank account number that get to
Now,
have those meetings.
I will
with
throw this
John.
out there. I did hear that even at these legacy dinners, he's hard to get pinned down.
Sure. Yeah,
So-
and that's probably, yeah.
There's probably, even within the legacy dream team, there's probably a hierarchy of those who have access to him more than others.
Sure. Yeah.
So just because you're in that room doesn't mean you get to get his personal email and go to his house or anything,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
or talk to him. But you're closer for sure.
Absolutely.
And you probably have a chance. Next next week we're gonna jump back into this, but wait, there's more. Since we didn't have an episode last week, next week we have 2 episodes. We do. We have 2 episodes next week. So we are going to
make it up to our listeners.
We are going to make it up to our listeners. Yes. So you've heard it first here. We are going to do.
But don't tell anyone. Don't tell anybody. This is just between
us and our
and
4 listeners.
4 listeners. Yeah. Are we up to 4?
Yeah. No.
All right.
So next week we will pick back up with the Legacy Dream Team conversation, and then we have
Part
a
2.
special political episode just before the election.
We're going to talk politics.
We are going to probably not talk politics,
Okay,
but who knows? I don't know.
Good. Yeah,
We'll see. It's going to be an episode that I think you're going to enjoy, or you're not going to enjoy. I don't know. No, it's going to be a good one. And so next week we have 2 episodes to kind of get back.
I did find a shirt that a political shirt that you and Josh would actually agree. You would both wear it in the same room. And it's 2 names, 24.
Just says 2 names.
No. It says whiskey and bourbon 2024.
Oh, okay. There you go.
So I knew you guys would probably agree to that.
So there's this website where you can make your own political T-shirts, and it has the name spot, and then it has a year spot. And so I want to do Martin Luther, and then 1517, the year of the Reformation.
Cool.
It'll look like a political shirt,
Nice.
but it's not.
There's also a website where you can get shirts that say Bad Fruit Podcast.
Yeah. And I will link
hats
to that.
And bumper stickers.
Bumper stickers.
So I gave some bumper stickers out.
Oh, did you?
And,
okay.
And I also put one on my wife's vehicle.
Yeah.
She wasn't happy about that.
I got one on my computer right now, and yeah, I'm gonna put one on my
We're gonna
vehicle
start
later.
seeing those bumper stickers.
I hope to
everywhere.
see them, and so yeah, you can get our merch. We got all kinds of merch: hats, hoodies, sweatshirts, T-shirts. I think there's even a like a tote bag and a pillow.
Pillow.
Yeah, I think you can get a pillow with the Bad Fruit podcast logo on it. You can get
Dude.
stickers, magnets. It's pretty cool. And
It's a cool logo. Our brother Josh designed it.
Yeah.
And
Did
he
you know that
also-
Josh also did the music
Yeah, I was
for our
gonna say,
podcast?
We have waited too long to give him credit. We
Well,
were trying to wait
yeah,
till
we
he
wanted
came
him
on.
Yeah.
So he was going to come on to the show and
Like episode 2 or 3, yeah.
and we were gonna just kind of say, hey, thanks for doing the music. So
Definitely buy some of that merch. I was gonna add that unlike some mega churches, I'm gonna let you know exactly what any funds we get go to, which is just to back into the podcast. So it's just gonna go into a savings account, and then when we get enough money, we're gonna buy a 3rd microphone so that we can have 3 people on it at the same time. Because that won't be chaos at all, right? And then maybe we'll buy a 4th microphone, and we could do roundtable episodes. And then just better equipment, better things. Hopefully, maybe one day get our own little studio set up or something. So we don't get very much money from each shirt sold, but the little that we do get just is going to go towards buying new stuff to make the podcast better.
and we are looking to expand into St. Louis, but that's going to be
only need-
$25 million.
Yeah, we only need $25 million.
So if you're willing to give $25 million, you can speed up our podcast, and we could do. Okay, if you give $25 million, we'll do 3 episodes a week.
Dude, if somebody gave us $25 million, we would just
We'd do 3 a day. We'll be live. We'll be 24 hours live.
The
You
Bad
could-
Fruit Podcast
you
live
could-
cast. Yeah.
Dude, there you go.
Dude, you've probably turned off the podcast by now. But if
this
you're
even
still
makes the cut.
listening,
If it makes the cut, we do this a lot and then we edit it out. But if this makes the cut and you're still listening, then
I just want to say thank you for listening to the Bad Fruit Podcast today. We'll be back next week with Not one, but 2 episodes. But the first one next week, we'll be continuing this conversation about the Legacy Dream Team. And I hope that you'll join us next week. And again, if you have any stories about the Legacy Team, reach out to us. I'll have that stuff in the show notes, and we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening.
Good evening. Good night.
Bye.
Somebody who has helped us as we've thought this through is a man by the name of Lee Domain. So Lee has helped us to think through some of the things that we're talking about. We've spent time with him, and he's given us really some direction. Here's what business people would appreciate. Here's a way that you can honor people who are doing so much to make the ministry happen.